How's it going, everybody? It's Terrence here with fishnetproductions.com. Got another video for you. Today is the fourth video in the series that I'm doing on EQ. Now, in the first video, we talked about the high and low pass filters and gave some interesting ways as to how to approach using those. In the second video, we talked about subtractive and additive EQ, better known as cutting and boosting, and we gave a really objective means as to how to approach those. In the third video, we dealt with frequency separation, and we talked about how to get separation between the instruments and your mix so that you'll have a cleaner mix. Now, in this video today, again, we're going to be talking about mid-side processing or mid-side EQ. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so what is mid-side processing? Now, mid-side processing is the act of being able to take the center of a stereo image and process it separately or differently from the sides of a stereo image. So as you know, in a stereo image, you basically have left and right and middle. So it's the process again of being able to take that middle and separate it and process it differently from the outer edges, which is the sides of the mix. Now, though mid-side processing is a very old concept, it's relatively new in the recording industry and in the home studio recording era that we're in now. So in the way that it's used now, it's being used quite differently. Now, mid-side processing is also a very, very powerful technique, one that I believe that you have to be really careful as to how you use it and when you use it and the purpose you use it for, because it's one of those things that can easily mess up a really good mix if you already have one. Now, mid-side processing is the larger umbrella term for what we're going to be dealing with today, which is mid-side EQ. Now, the reason that is because you can really, once you are able to separate and process differently the center and the side channels of a stereo image, you can virtually use any processing device that you have. So compression, reverb, EQ, anything that you want to process separately in the mix on a center channel versus the side channels, you can do that. And that's why this is such a powerful technique. But anyway, again, we're going to be dealing with the mid-side EQ. So we'll talk about some ways to use this EQ. Now, by far the most common thing to do with mid-side EQ is to use it in a way that it will open up your stereo image more and give the perception of a larger, wider mix. So we'll talk about how to get that. Now, let's have a listen to this song. It's the same song that we've been dealing with in the past 3 videos with the EQ series. So I have a decent mix going on it here, and we'll just talk about what we're going to do. So let's just listen to it a little bit, and so you can have an idea of what's going on in the song. Okay, again, a fairly good mix going on here on the song. Nothing really wrong with the song. But what we're going to use this mid-side EQ to do is to open up this stereo image a little bit. So here I have the Ozone EQ open. It's one of the only modules that I'm using on here. I'm actually using the maximizer too to turn the volume of the mix up a little bit. But also the EQ is the only other module I'm using, and it's right now it's on my, as you can see, it's on my stereo bus. So we're going to be using it as a global effect to try to widen up this stereo spectrum a little bit. So basically what we're going to do here is I already have the mid channel separated from the side channel. So as you can see here, when I click these 2 buttons, this represents the side channels and then this one represents the mids. So whatever I do on this one, so I make a move here, it won't be the same on the side channel. So as you can see, they're processed differently. Now, one of the most typical things that you can do is in the side channel, it's a very common thing to have your lower instruments like your kick drum and your bass guitar only going up the center channels. But as you know, what happens is once you add a lot of processing, stereo processing such as reverb and stuff like that, and you run your bass through it, the bass can get smeared and the kick drum can get smeared in the stereo spectrum. So that means it'll kind of be less mono and it'll have some stereo information going on in it. So what we'll do now is the first thing we'll do is try to take that bass information that's been created in these sides, take it out so that you only have the bass coming, the bass and the kick drum coming straight up the middle. So let's give that a listen. I'll solo the side channel here, and what you'll hear first is probably this really phasey, out of phase kind of sound, but it basically represents the sides of the mix. So let's go ahead and listen to that. Yeah, see this really phasey kind of out of phase type of thing going on here, but you can tell it has some low end in it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and high pass that, put a high pass filter on this side channel and try to take it up just for enough to pull the low end out of the side channels. So let's do that. Okay, now let's A and B that. I'll start with it off and then I'll turn it on so you can hear the difference between what's going on here. Okay, so you see how that snatched that low end out of the side channels here. So what that's going to do now in the mid channel or in the center of my mix, it'll help keep that bass and that kick drum centered directly in the center, thus providing the perception of a wider mix already. So just with those two things going on, and we haven't done anything else. So I'll bring the whole mix back in and I'll bypass this setting and I'll start with it off and then I'll turn it on and you can see what difference it's making in the bass frequencies. So here we go. Yeah, see, it cleaned up those low frequencies a bit. Very subtle effect for now. And again, with this processing, we're not looking to do any major fixes or anything like that. And another thing about this EQ processing is I believe that it's meant to be coupled with other things that it works in conjunction with. So again, here we're not looking to make a major big difference in the stereo, like, going from basically a mono to a very wide mix or anything like that. That's not the thing that we're looking for here. So again, a very subtle effect. So let's move on from there. Now, another thing we can do with this side channel is, and it's very common to do, to basically take the sides and brighten them up a little bit. Take them and just give them a little boost up here in the high frequency area, maybe around, well, it kind of differs. Maybe I generally like to do it somewhere around 7 or 8K. So we'll look at that and give that a listen to see what we have. So let's solo that side channel again, those side channels, and then let's see what we have, and let's just give it a boost. And what we're looking to do is basically just bring some air and some high end out of the things that's going on this side channel. So some of the background vocals, probably the strings and a little bit of the electric piano, the Rhodes is on the sides too. So we'll probably just brighten those things up on the side. So let's do that. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, that gave some air and some brightness to that side channel. So let me turn it off. I'll bypass that signal and let you hear what this boost and what this high pass filter is doing to the side channels. So I'll start with it off and we'll go from there. All right, now let's unsolo that and listen to the effect that it's having on our mix. Again, I'll start with it off and then I'll turn it on, and you can hear what effect that we're getting from this. Yeah, nice subtle effect going on there. We got some brightness. If you heard it, you heard those side channels where those strings are and those some of those background vocals kind of just jump out at you a little bit more in the mix. So have a listen to it again and just listen to those side channels. Really nice. Okay, so now let's move to the mid channel and talk about some processing that we can do on this center channel. So let's solo that and have a listen to what's going on in the center. Here we go. Okay, as you can see, most of the mix is kind of sitting there in the center, so we don't want to change anything. We don't want to over process anything. So basically what we're looking to do here is, since we added the high end in the side channels, now we can kind of go in and take some of that out of the center. So the way I usually like to do this is, again, take a low pass filter and just push it up to where we tapering off some of that high end so that you're getting all of those low end frequency instruments in the center. It'll seem more centered. So basically, let's just take this high pass filter, turn it on, and bring it down till we hear some tapering off of that high end. All right, so here we go. All right, good. So we're not doing any over processing here. We're just trying to taper off a little bit of that high end because we want that to be mostly in the sides here, which will again give that perception of an open, wide stereo spectrum here. So let me turn that off and on. I'll start with it off and let you hear the difference between what's happening right there with the low pass filter. All right, here we go. Now that's a little bit lower than what I would normally do on a low pass. So let me bring it up just maybe around 9K there. Let's hear what that's doing now. All right, really nice there. And one other thing that we can do with this mid channel is, again, because of those bass frequencies and lower frequencies are in this channel, we can just kind of give just a subtle boost to that. So what I like to do is just go in and try to fish out that bass line and the kick drum to try to find those and just give it a subtle boost so it can give you a little bit more punch in that center. All right, so let's do that.
If you think
All right, so just a little subtle boost there going on. So let me A and B that. I'll start with it off so you can hear the difference between what's going on with just this boost and the low cut filter here. All right, not bad. So now let's unsolo this and let's listen to both these channel processings here and see what difference it's making in the mix. So I'll start with the whole thing off and then I'll turn it on and you can see what difference it's making. Now what you're listening for is, again, listen to those side channels. Listen to that bright end just jump out at you a little bit more. Listen to that stereo spectrum open up a little bit. All right, check it out. Really cool and nice effect, right? Again, and we're not doing anything major here. This is, with this processing, it's probably a little more than what I would generally do, especially this boost right here on the side channel with the 4 dB boost. I usually don't do it this way. I did it this way so I could exaggerate it a little bit so you could tell the difference in this video. Generally, what I like to do is just do high pass filters here. It's a larger gain cut, and it's just easier to work with for me. So generally, I'll just take a high pass filter, fish out those frequencies I want to boost in, and boost it up from maybe about 8K, and then, you know, give me a little high end from there. But again, I did it this way so I could exaggerate it in the video. Same thing with this high pass filter. It all depends on the song for me, but generally I could high pass anywhere. I generally don't like to go above 200 hertz at all, so generally I'll try to keep it below that as much as I can, but just depending on the frequency information in the instruments and in the track itself, I'll maybe go up a little bit higher. All right, guys, so this is generally the gist of mid-side processing. Again, it's the process of being able to take the middle channel and process it separately from the side channel. Now, again, we're doing this processing using EQ, but this process can be done using compression, reverb, any other processing, even saturation, tape saturation, anything like that that you want to process differently from the middle and the sides. This process can be used on. Now, again, a word of caution. In my opinion, I believe that this mid-side processing is one thing that can really easily get messed up if you don't do it in a very musical and a very subtle way. If you start making these big boosts and cuts here, it'll mess up your mix really, really fast, especially if you already have a good mix going on. Now, thankfully, with this plugin, the Ozone plugin, they kind of make it dummy proof to where even the boosts and cuts here, as you can see, only go up about 5 dB or so in this range. As you can tell on the gain here, they only go up, you know, again, about 5.5 dB. So they kind of make it dummy proof, so you don't have to, you know, you're not going all the way up here in 20 dB boost or anything like that. So they kind of make it dummy proof, which is what I like about Ozone. But anyway, again, just a word of caution. Don't go all out of the box with this. Keep it subtle. Just do some simple processing. Use it in conjunction with other things that's working for you. So again, for me, the EQ part of it is probably not the only thing I would use in mid-side processing. I would use this in conjunction maybe with some compression on the middle and some things like that, just to kind of make some other things jump out at you or make some other things louder in the mix. So again, guys, that's mid-side processing. All right, now join me in the next video where we're going to be talking about mastering with EQ. We'll give some really, really simple and basic yet effective techniques that will help you get better results from your masters. If you're doing any mastering or anything like that, it's really a good follow-up to this video, because this mid-side processing is a process that you can typically use on a master that does well for master. So again, we'll be talking about mastering with EQ. Make sure you go subscribe to the channel, guys. Again, I'm not necessarily putting these videos out everywhere publicly, so you may or may not have access to them, and I want you to have access to them. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that now, and I'll see you guys in the next video.